The huge alien ship named Eternal Dominion floated above Earth. Its metal skin shined in the sunlight. On the bridge, Commander Zexalar watched Earth through the viewing screen. He had 4 eyes, a hard outer shell, and clicking mouthparts, like a giant insect. "Another weak world to add to our list," he said to Officer Velnar, his second-in-command. "Get ready to show them who's boss. We'll attack one of their big cities first." "Yes, Commander," Velnar said with excitement. His mouth parts moved quickly. The Krathar Empire had taken over more than 300 planets. No one had ever beaten them. On Earth, Admiral Alan Carter looked at pictures of the alien ship that had appeared near the moon. He was 52 years old with gray hair and a face marked by years of worry. He had spent his life getting ready for this day. People had called him crazy, but now he was proven right. "Send them our welcome message," he told Lieutenant Susan Miller at the communications desk. Her hands moved fast across the controls. "Message sent, sir. Translation program included as planned. Now we wait," Carter said. His face stayed calm, but his heart beat fast. Humans had been sending messages to space for many years. Now something had finally answered. The reply that came was not friendly. "People of Earth," the message said on screens all over the world. "We are the Krathar Empire, rulers of this part of space. Your world now belongs to us. Give up your governments and resources, and we will let you live as our subjects. If you fight back, we will attack your cities until you surrender. You have 6 hours to answer." In a secret base under Denver, the military leaders and the president watched with fear. "What can we do?" President Diane Powell asked, keeping her voice steady despite the danger. Admiral Carter stepped forward. "Madam President, the Phoenix program was made for exactly this situation. We've been building defenses and weapons in secret for 15 years. "The Phoenix program?" General Richard Bell asked with surprise. "I've never heard of it." "That was on purpose, General," Carter said. "Only people working directly on it were told. We couldn't risk anyone finding out." President Powell nodded. "Tell me about the program, Admiral." "We have weapons platforms in space and a small group of spaceships with new engines and weapons. We can't match their big ship in a direct fight, but we can show them we're not helpless." "And you kept this secret from everyone?" the Defense Secretary asked in shock. "We kept it secret from everyone, including any aliens who might be watching us," Carter explained. "The Phoenix program works on the idea that advanced aliens might be listening to our communications and watching our technology." The president stood up. "Will your program give us a chance against this empire?" Carter looked serious. "It will give us a fighting chance, Madam President. That's all we can hope for." "Then you have my permission. Start the Phoenix Protocol." Around the world, in hidden underground bases and underwater facilities, systems turned on. Workers who had trained for years for this day rushed to their stations. On the alien ship, Commander Zexalar got a warning from his sensor officer. "Commander, we're seeing strange energy signals from the planet. They seem to be turning on weapons we didn't see before." Zexalar made a clicking sound of amusement. "Interesting. They have weapons after all. No matter. Get ready to stop whatever simple weapons they fire at us." "Sir," the communications officer interrupted. "We're getting a response from the humans." The message was simple. "To the Krathar Empire? No." Before Zexalar could order an attack, alarms sounded all over the ship. Officer Velnar shouted in surprise as the sensors lit up. "Many objects coming from hidden bases on the moon. Energy readings show weapons much more advanced than we expected." The first shots from Earth's hidden defenses hit the Krathar ship with surprising accuracy. The ship's shields glowed but held. Zexalar's mouthparts clicked rapidly in anger. "Fire back, target their moon bases." As the battle began, Lieutenant Frank Ortiz on the Earthship Defiance got his orders. The sleek black ship had been hidden in a crater on the far side of the moon, waiting for this moment. "All Phoenix ships, attack as planned," came Admiral Carter's voice over the radio. "Remember what you practiced." "Understood," Ortiz replied. He felt the weight of all humanity's future on his shoulders as he and his crew of 12 got ready for humanity's first space battle. "Let's show these aliens they should have sent diplomats instead of threats." The Defiance and Six Sister ships came out of hiding, their special engines glowing as they sped toward the massive alien ship. They moved so fast they surprised even the Krathar's advanced tracking systems. As they got closer, Ortiz opened a communication channel to the alien ship. His message was short and would be remembered in human history forever. You should know something about humans before you start a war with us. When we're cornered, we don't give up. We fight. And our warning to those who threaten our home? Run. The space around Earth lit up with weapons fire. The human ships were smaller but faster, darting around the huge alien vessel like angry bees attacking a bear. No one on Earth had ever seen such a battle before. In command centers around the world, military leaders watched in amazement as the secret Phoenix fleet engaged the alien invaders. For years they had been told there was no significant space defense program. Now they were witnessing humanity's hidden guardians in action. On the Defiance, Ortiz's weapons officer, Jack Wilson, locked targeting systems on the alien ship's apparent weak points. "Firing main weapons," Wilson called out. Beams of concentrated energy burst from the human vessel, striking precisely where the alien shield seemed thinnest. The Krathar ship shuddered under the impact. Inside, Commander Zexalar steadied, himself against his command console. "Impossible," he hissed. "Their technology should be centuries behind ours." Officer Velnar checked the damage reports flowing in. "Commander, they seem to be using weapons based on our own technology. But how could they have—" "It doesn't matter how," Zexalar snapped. "Destroy these pests." The alien ship fired massive energy weapons that vaporized one of the human vessels instantly. The crew of the Defiance watched in horror as their comrades disappeared in a flash of light. "Stay focused," Ortiz told his shaken crew. "Remember the plan. We're not trying to destroy them, just make them think twice." Admiral Carter watched the battle from Earth, his face grim but determined. Next to him, President Powell asked the question on everyone's mind. "Can we win this, Admiral?" Carter shook his head slightly. "Win? No, Madam President, but we can survive it, and sometimes that's enough." As the battle continued, humanity's first stand against the stars had begun. No one knew how it would end, but the message had been delivered. Earth would not surrender quietly. The Krathar Empire had taken over hundreds of worlds, but no planet had ever fought back like Earth. Commander Zexalar could not believe his 4 eyes as the 7 small Earth ships moved in ways his computers said were impossible. They should have been easy to hit, but they moved so strangely that his targeting systems could not lock onto them. "Why can't we hit them?" he demanded, as another shot from his ship's big guns missed the human ship called Defiance. "We don't know, Commander," his weapons officer said. "Their ships look simple, but they're moving in ways that should tear them apart." On the Defiance, Lieutenant Frank Ortiz felt his ship shake as he made another sharp turn. The Phoenix program's ships were built with one idea in mind: use the enemy's better technology against them. "How are our shields holding?" he asked his engineer, Sam Nelson. 87% power, Nelson said, his hands moving quickly over his control panel. "Their targeting computers keep trying to guess where we'll go next based on normal physics. Our quantum drives are making them miss every time." "Good work," Ortiz said. "Start attack pattern Echo 7. The 7 Earth ships suddenly split up in what looked like random directions, but their movements were carefully planned. Years of practice and computer simulations were now being tested for real. In the underground base in Denver, Admiral Carter watched the battle through satellite feeds and data from the Phoenix fleet. "The Krathar use computers that predict where targets will go," he explained to President Powell. "Their technology is better than ours, but they rely on it too much. Our ships are designed to exploit that weakness." "How long can we keep fighting?" the President asked. "Not forever," Carter admitted. "But we don't need to. We just need to make them think Earth is too much trouble to be worth it." On the moon, Colonel Judy Rivera watched over final preparations for humanity's secret weapon. A massive cannon, hidden under the moon's surface in Tycho crater for more than 10 years, was Earth's best hope. "Power at 93%, reported Major Greg Ward. "Target locked." Rivera nodded, her eyes fixed on the screen showing the alien ship's position. Remember, we only get one shot before they find us. Make it count. On the Eternal Dominion, Commander Zexlar was getting angry. What should have been an easy conquest was becoming embarrassing. Launch our fighter ships, he ordered. Fill the area with so many fighters that those human ships can't dodge everything. Officer Velnar hesitated. Commander, our usual procedure when meeting unexpected resistance is to pull back and make a new plan. We are the Krathar Empire, Zexlar shouted, his body turning red with rage. We do not retreat from primitives. Do as I command. The huge alien ship opened its hangar doors, sending out hundreds of smaller fighter ships. As they flew toward the human vessels, Lieutenant Ortiz got an urgent message from the moon base. Defiance, this is Artemis Base. Operation Sunburn starting in 30 seconds. Get out of the area immediately. Understood, Ortiz replied. All Phoenix ships, break off and withdraw at maximum speed. Now. The 7 Earth ships suddenly sped away from the Krathar flagship, confusing the alien commander. They're running away, Velnar said. Should we chase them? Before Zexlar could answer, his sensor officer yelled in alarm. Huge energy spike detected from the moon's surface. From Tycho crater, a bright beam of energy shot out, crossing the space between the moon and the Krathar flagship in less than 2 seconds. The energy beam, powered by technology taken from crashed alien ships found decades ago, hit the alien ship's shields with tremendous force. The shields held, but just barely. Alarms sounded throughout the flagship as systems failed, and power lines broke. Damage report, Zexlar demanded, picking himself up from the floor where the impact had thrown him. Shields at 28%, Velnar reported, his usual calm voice now shaking. Multiple holes in the lower decks. Power problems throughout the ship. Zexlar stared at the screen, watching as the human ships regrouped and prepared for another attack. In all his 300 years serving the Empire, he had never seen such effective resistance from a supposedly primitive civilization. In Denver, President Powell watched the battle with mixed hope and fear. Can we win this, Admiral? Carter's face stayed neutral. Win? No, Madam President, their technology is still far better than ours, but we can make them think twice about whether Earth is worth the cost. On the Eternal Dominion, Commander Zexlar was thinking the same thing. The humans had hurt the Empire's pride, something no species had done in generations. Call back the fighters, he ordered. Prepare to move to a higher orbit. We're pulling back? Velnar asked, unable to hide his surprise. Tactical repositioning, Zexlar said sharply. And send a message to Imperial High Command, request reinforcements, many reinforcements. As the huge alien ship moved to a higher orbit, putting the moon between itself and Earth, Lieutenant Ortiz allowed himself a small smile. They're backing off, he told his crew. Round 1 goes to humanity. Do you think they're leaving? Asked Nelson from engineering. No, Ortiz said, his face serious again. They're regrouping, and probably calling for backup. In the quiet of space, the first battle between humanity and the Krathar Empire ended in a surprising tie. But everyone knew this was just the beginning of a bigger conflict. On Earth, Admiral Carter spoke to an emergency meeting of the United Nations Security Council. Ladies and gentlemen, we've bought ourselves some time, but nothing more. The Krathar Empire has conquered hundreds of worlds. They won't give up after one setback. They'll come back with more ships, more troops, and a better understanding of our defenses. How much time do we have? Asked the British representative. Based on what we've learned from their communications, we think 3 to 6 weeks before reinforcements arrive, Carter replied. Until then, we need to get ready. Every nation, every resource, every person on Earth must now focus on one goal: survival. As the world leaders debated and planned, Lieutenant Ortiz and his crew kept watch, monitoring the damaged Krathar flagship in its higher orbit. You know, said his navigator Lisa Patel, I keep thinking about what you said to them before the battle. What's that? Ortiz asked. You told them to run, she said with a small smile. Maybe they finally listened. Ortiz shook his head. They're not running. Not yet. But we've done something important today. What's that, sir? We've taught them fear, he said quietly, and that might be the only advantage we have. Around the world, as news of the battle spread, people reacted with a mix of fear and pride. Humanity had stood up to an alien empire and survived the first round, but everyone knew harder tests were coming. In secret bases, scientists worked frantically to understand the alien technology from damaged fighters that had been captured. Military leaders drew up new defense plans. Space agencies converted every available rocket for defensive purposes. On the Defiance, Ortiz studied the battle recordings, looking for weaknesses in the Krathar tactics. His weapons officer, Peter Knight, pointed to a pattern on the screen. See how their shields flicker when hit from multiple angles at once. I think we could exploit that. Good catch, Ortiz said. Make sure all ship commanders get this information. Admiral Carter, meanwhile, faced tough questions from world leaders about the Phoenix program and its secrecy. How could you build a space fleet without anyone knowing? Demanded the Russian president. By doing it in plain sight, Carter explained. Every failed satellite launch, every scrapped aerospace project, every abandoned military research program, they weren't failures. They were cover stories. President Powell supported him. What matters now is not the past but the future. The Krathar will return. We must be ready. As Earth prepared for war, Commander Zexlar nursed his wounded pride. On the damaged flagship, he had underestimated these humans, a mistake he would not make again. Study every aspect of their tactics, he ordered his officers. When our reinforcements arrive, I want to crush these humans so completely that they are remembered only as a footnote in Imperial history. Officer Velnar was not so confident. These humans fight differently than other species we've conquered. They're unpredictable. They're just primitives with a few technological tricks, Zexlar insisted. But deep inside, a feeling he had not known for centuries stirred in his mind. Doubt. 3 weeks after the first battle, Earth had changed. Old enemies became friends as countries worked together to prepare for the next attack. The Phoenix program, once the biggest secret on the planet, was now the center of Earth's defense plan. Space, the Krathar ship Eternal Dominion stayed in its position, sometimes sending small scout ships that Earth's defenses quickly shot down. Commander Zexlar was waiting for help to arrive before attacking again. At the new Global Defense Headquarters in Geneva, Admiral Carter looked at a 3D map showing the positions of Earth's growing defense fleet. What had started as 7 test ships had grown to 38, as hidden facilities around the world began building more ships. Admiral, we've decoded more of the Krathar messages, reported Commander Olivia Sanchez, who led the alien intelligence team. It looks like their reinforcements will arrive in 5 days, Carter nodded grimly. How many ships? At least 15, maybe more. Mostly destroyer-class ships, but including 2 more flagships. So they're taking us seriously, Carter said. That's both good and bad. Sir? Sanchez asked. Good because it means our show of force earned their respect. Bad because they're sending enough firepower to destroy the planet. In a secret lab under the Alps Mountains, Dr. Ethan Ward led a team of scientists studying captured Krathar technology from a damaged fighter they had managed to disable during the first battle. The neural interface is the key, he explained, to visiting defense ministers. The Krathar don't just drive their ships, they connect their brains to them. Their brains process battle data and response patterns much faster than any human could. So they have an advantage we can't match? Asked the French minister. Not exactly, Ward replied, pointing to a modified human fighter where technicians were installing equipment. Just different. Their neural networks are optimized for speed and efficiency, but they're also predictable. They follow patterns built into their training and technology. And humans don't. Humans are messy, Ward said with a smile. We improvise. We make intuitive leaps. We do things that don't make logical sense but somehow work. Our test pilots are already showing that Krathar targeting systems have trouble with human unpredictability. In space, aboard the new space station Bulwark, Lieutenant Frank Ortiz had been promoted to captain and given command of the growing Vanguard fleet. The Defiance and its sister ships were now joined by newer vessels built using lessons learned from the first battle. The key is to never do what they expect, Ortiz explained to his squadron leaders. The Krathar rely on prediction computers for everything from targeting to battle planning. Our advantage is that humans don't always do what makes sense. So our strategy is to act crazy? Asked Commander Zoe Martinez with a raised eyebrow. Our strategy is controlled chaos, Ortiz corrected. We make moves that their computers can't predict because no logical tactical system would recommend them. But there's method to our madness. Meanwhile, on the Eternal Dominion, Commander Zexler was troubled by the humans' activities. Their rapid adaptation to Krathar technology and tactics was unlike anything he had seen before. They shouldn't be able to copy our shield technology so quickly, he complained to Officer Velnar, as they reviewed the latest intelligence. Even accounting for their pre-existing space program, the speed of their progress is concerning. Perhaps we should consider what Sub-Commander Teklar suggested before we came here, Velnar said carefully. Zexlar's mouth parts clicked in irritation. That these humans have had contact with other species before? Nonsense. Their world was clearly pre-FTL when we arrived. Yet their response to our arrival lacked the panic we usually see in first contact scenarios, Velnar pointed out. They were prepared. Before Zexler could respond, his communications officer interrupted. Commander, we're receiving a transmission from the humans. It's directed specifically to you. Show it, Zexler ordered, curious despite himself. The screen lit up, showing the face of a human male with dark hair and determined eyes that Zexler recognized from previous communications as Captain Ortiz. Commander Zexler, Ortiz began. I'm contacting you to propose a direct meeting. No weapons, no tricks. Just you and me, discussing whether this conflict needs to continue. Zexlar's 4 eyes blinked in surprise. He's proposing a peace talk? How primitive. It could be a trap, Velnar cautioned. Of course it's a trap, Zexlar agreed, but I'm curious to see what form it takes. He gestured to the communications officer. Tell the human I accept. I will meet him on their orbital station. The meeting took place on the Bulwark, in a specially prepared room with air suitable for both species. Zexlar arrived with 4 guards while Ortiz brought only 2. Commander, Ortiz greeted the alien with a respectful nod. Thank you for coming. Zexlar's translator converted his clicks and whistles to English. I must admit to curiosity, Captain. In 3,000 cycles of Imperial expansion, no species has ever requested a peace talk after initial subjugation efforts. Maybe that's because you've never encountered humans before, Ortiz replied. We tend to do the unexpected. So I've observed, Zexlar said, his upper eyes narrowing while his lower eyes scanned the room for threats. You wish to discuss terms? I wanted to show you something, Ortiz said, pointing to a screen that turned on to show various scenes from Earth. Children playing in parks, farmers in fields, scientists in labs, artists creating beautiful things. This is what you're threatening to destroy, Ortiz explained. Not just our military or our resources, but our entire way of life, our diversity, our creativity, our future. Zexler clicked dismissively. All species value their survival. This is not unique to humans. What is unique, Ortiz continued, is what happens when humans are threatened. The screen changed to show historical footage, desperate battles against overwhelming odds, clever solutions to seemingly impossible problems, and incredible acts of courage. When we're backed into a corner, we don't surrender. We become something else entirely, Ortiz said quietly. The Krathar Empire has never fought humans before. You don't know what that means. Is this a threat, Captain? Zexler asked, mouth parts twitching in what might have been amusement. It's a warning, Ortiz replied. You're about to commit your empire to a war unlike any you fought before. Even if you win, especially if you win, you'll never be the same. As the meeting ended without any agreement, Zexalar returned to his shuttle, troubled by something he couldn't quite identify. The human hadn't begged or threatened or attempted negotiation. He had simply warned. Back on the Eternal Dominion, Officer Velnar noticed his commander's unusual silence. "Did you learn anything useful from the humans?" "Perhaps," Zexalar replied thoughtfully. "They are either supremely confident or suicidally delusional. Either possibility is intriguing." As the Krathar shuttle left the bulwark, Admiral Carter joined Ortiz in the observation deck. "Do you think it made any difference?" Carter asked. Ortiz shook his head. "Probably not, but I needed to see him up close, to understand what we're fighting." "And?" "They're not invincible," Ortiz said firmly. "They're powerful and advanced, but they have weaknesses. They're rigidly hierarchical. They rely too heavily on their technology. And most importantly, they don't understand humans." Carter nodded slowly. "Let's hope that last part stays true, because in 3 days, we're going to put everything on the line." As Earth's defenders made their final preparations, the stars above shifted slightly as 15 Krathar warships emerged from faster-than-light travel at the edge of the solar system. The reinforcements had arrived early. The true test of humanity was about to begin. The Krathar reinforcement fleet appeared at the edge of the solar system. 16 warships moved in perfect formation, enough power to turn Earth to ash. At the center was the supercarrier Imperial Wrath, a ship 3 times bigger than the Eternal Dominion. On its bridge stood High Commander Drezkor, the most decorated military leader in the Empire's eastern territory. His body armor showed scars from 100 conquered worlds, and he was known for his ruthless efficiency. "Status report," he demanded as his fleet moved toward Earth. "All ships ready for battle," his assistant replied. "We are getting updates from Commander Zexalar's forces. The humans have been building defenses, but nothing that should give us trouble." Drezkor's mouth parts clicked in what passed for a smile among his kind. "Good. Prepare the destruction protocol. I want this matter finished quickly." On Earth, early warning systems detected the approaching fleet. In the Geneva headquarters, Admiral Carter addressed the gathered military leaders of Earth's United Defense Force. "Ladies and gentlemen, what we've prepared for is now here," he said, his voice steady despite the serious situation. "The reinforcements we expected have arrived. More ships than we thought, but nothing we didn't plan for." "Can we really beat a force that size?" asked the Chinese General Wei Lin. Carter's expression was grim but determined. "Normal military thinking would say no, but we're not fighting normally." He nodded to his aide, who turned on a 3D display, showing a complex battle plan called Operation Hornet's Nest. "We can't match them ship for ship," Carter continued, "but we don't need to. We just need to make Earth too costly a prize." In orbit aboard the space station Bulwark, Captain Frank Ortiz addressed the pilots and crews of Earth's defense fleet. "Everything we've worked for comes down to this," he told them, his voice broadcasting to every ship. "The Krathar expect us to either give up in the face of overwhelming force or make a desperate, doomed last stand. We're going to do neither." He activated a tactical display showing the solar system. "The Phoenix Protocol is now in full effect. All units prepare to do your assigned jobs. Remember, we're not just fighting for ourselves. We're fighting for everyone who will come after us." As the Krathar fleet approached Mars orbit, High Commander Drezkor received a puzzling report from his scout ships. "The humans are spreading out, Commander," his tactical officer reported with confusion. "Their fleet is breaking up into small groups and heading to different parts of the system." "Cowardice," Drezkor dismissed. "They run from our might. Track and destroy them all." "There's something else," the officer added. "We're detecting unusual activity in the asteroid belt and near several of the gas giants' moons." Before Drezkor could ask more, a brilliant flash lit up the view screen as a massive explosion erupted near Mars. 3 Krathar destroyers that had moved ahead of the main fleet suddenly found themselves caught in a cloud of high-speed debris, the remains of Phobos, one of Mars's moons, which had been rigged with gravity disruptors. "What trickery is this?" Drezkor demanded as the debris cloud tore through the hulls of his advanced ships. The humans. Commander Zexalar's voice came through the communication system are not behaving according to any known battle pattern, High Commander. They've weaponized their entire solar system. Across the void of space, humanity's desperate plan unfolded. What had appeared to be a retreat was in fact a carefully planned dispersal. The Phoenix fleet broke into small, quick strike groups that launched hit-and-run attacks against the Krathar formation, disrupting their organization. Meanwhile, the planets and moons of the solar system became weapons. Automated mining machines that had been positioned throughout the asteroid belt began throwing chunks of rock toward the alien fleet at tremendous speeds. Gas collectors around Jupiter ignited pockets of explosive elements to create blinding flares that disrupted Krathar sensors. On the command ship Defiance, Captain Ortiz coordinated the human resistance. Squad 7, execute maneuver Theseus. Squad 3, begin Operation Chimera. The human vessels moved with a coordination and unpredictability that confused the Krathar targeting systems. Some ships deliberately exposed themselves to draw fire, only to have other vessels strike from unexpected angles. High Commander Drezkor watched in mounting anger as his perfect formation began to break apart, each ship dealing with local threats. "This is unacceptable," he raged. "Form a spearhead and push directly for their homeworld. Ignore these distractions." But the distractions couldn't be ignored. Every time the Krathar tried to regroup, they found their communications jammed, their formations disrupted by debris fields or sudden attacks from multiple directions. In the skies above Earth, the final layer of defense revealed itself. Thousands of small piloted craft, hastily converted from atmospheric fighters, and even civilian aircraft rose to meet the approaching warships. Each was equipped with a single high-powered weapon and protected by makeshift shields based on captured Krathar technology. "This is not a suicide mission," Admiral Carter had told the pilots. "Hit your targets and return if possible, but make your shots count." And count they did. The sheer number of attacking craft overwhelmed the aliens' defenses. For every human ship destroyed, 2 more slipped through to deliver their weapons against the massive hulls of the invaders. Aboard the Imperial Wrath, High Commander Drezkor received increasingly desperate reports from across his fleet. "We've lost 4 destroyers and the cruiser Inevitable Conquest is reporting critical damage," his assistant informed him. "The humans they're everywhere." "Impossible." Drezkor slammed his armored claw against his command console. "They are primitives. How can they coordinate such an attack?" The answer came from Commander Zexalar, whose own flagship had taken heavy damage. "They warned us, High Commander. They told us to run." Drezkor's compound eyes narrowed. "The Krathar Empire does not run from primitives." "With respect," Zexalar replied, his voice steady despite the chaos around him. "These are not ordinary primitives. They're humans." As if to prove his point, a massive explosion rocked the Imperial Wrath as a human strike team, having snuck in through a damaged hangar bay, set off bombs near the ship's main power lines. Throughout the solar system, the battle raged for hours. The Krathar's technological superiority was clear, but it was matched against human creativity, desperation, and a willingness to use tactics that no rational military strategist would consider. Earth suffered terribly. Orbital defense platforms were destroyed. Cities were damaged by weapons fire from the ships that broke through. Thousands of brave pilots and crew members gave their lives. But as the conflict stretched into its 10th hour, it was the Krathar formation that began to fail. Of the 16 ships that had arrived, 7 had been destroyed outright. 4 more were so badly damaged they could no longer fight effectively. The remaining 5, including the flagship Imperial Wrath, found themselves surrounded by a constantly shifting cloud of human attackers. On the bridge of the Defiance, Captain Ortiz received a transmission that he immediately sent to Admiral Carter on Earth. "Sir," he reported, "we're picking up unusual energy readings from the Krathar flagship. It appears they're preparing for a faster-than-light jump." In Geneva, Carter allowed himself a small, grim smile. "They're retreating." "Should we try to stop them?" Ortiz asked. Carter thought for a moment, then shook his head. "No. Let them go. Let them tell others what happened here. High Commander Drezkor stood amid the smoking ruins of his bridge, his body cracked and leaking vital fluids. Around him, the surviving crew worked frantically to restore enough systems for their escape. "This cannot be," he muttered, staring at the tactical display showing the destruction of his once mighty fleet. "We cannot be defeated by humans," Officer Velnar finished for him, having transferred from the Eternal Dominion when that ship's engines had been crippled. "It seems we greatly underestimated them." Drezkor's mouth parts clicked in angry denial, but he gave the order nonetheless. "Initiate emergency FTL, return to Imperial space." As the surviving Krathar ships vanished into faster-than-light travel, a cheer went up from every human vessel and command center. Against all odds, Earth had stood its ground. In the aftermath, as humanity began the process of rebuilding and strengthening its defenses, Admiral Carter met with Captain Ortiz aboard. "The Bulwark. What do you think they'll do now?" Ortiz asked, looking out at Earth below them, damaged but not defeated. "They'll return," Carter said with certainty. "The Krathar Empire won't accept this defeat. They'll come back with an even larger force. But next time we'll be better prepared," Ortiz noted. "We've captured enough of their technology to advance our own by decades, maybe centuries," Carter nodded. "And more importantly, we've proven something to ourselves. Humanity can stand united. We can face the impossible and survive." As they spoke, deep space monitoring stations detected transmission bursts. The Krathar survivors, reporting back to their empire. The content of those transmissions would forever change how the galaxy viewed the inhabitants of the third planet from an unremarkable yellow star. For the data sent by the retreating ships contained not just military assessments and technical analysis, but a simple warning that would be added to every Imperial navigation chart and tactical database.